class, this is going to be the first class of the 10-day challenge to earning your Taekwondo white belt. Today's class, we're going to be covering punches and blocks. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to bow in first, and then we're just going to get started. So to bow in, just put your hands and feet together, just like this. This is a tension stance or chariot. We'll go in more stances in the next class. And bow forward, keeping your eyes forward. Don't look all the way down to where you can't see. Bow, and then come back up. All right, so we're going to start off with a warm-up. The warm-up, we're just going to start moving. So let's start jumping jacks. Make sure any of your training sessions, you start off with some sort of a warm-up. Especially if you're going to be doing like heavy kicking, you really want to warm up the muscles. You want to get them so that they're not going to tear, essentially. That's one of the main reasons we want to warm up, is so our muscles are more elastic and they stretch instead of ripping. It is not fun to rip a muscle. I've done it, and I do not recommend it. So just keep going with the jumping jacks. These are good because they move every part of your body. All right, now we're going to keep doing jumping jacks, but we're going to change it so where we're crossing our legs instead of meeting them together. Now I'm going to alternate each leg in front each time. So this time my right's in front and my left. The right's in front and the left. So arms still moving and the legs are moving. All right, now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to leave our hands up for this one, and we're going to put one foot in front, one foot in the back, and we're going to switch them. Notice how the knot in my belt is going to keep facing forward. And switch, and switch, and switch. You can have a few little bounces and switch, or you can just go switch, 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 whichever one you want to do. Now when I'm doing this, I'm keeping my heel up on the back foot. I'm not planting it down. I'm not changing the way my chest is moving, so it's not like actual switch, which would be here, where I switch from one side to the other. I'm just moving my feet. Again, this is just to help you warm up. All right, now let's go ahead and let's spread our feet out a little bit. We're going to turn from one side to the other, and we're just going to do trunk twists. Try to turn as much as you can, but keep your heels planted. So I'm not raising my heels. I'm not doing this, where that heel raises up. Keep it down right now. All right, so now we're going to put our hands on our hips, and we're going to just circle our head. Nice and slow. Don't move too fast. Now, on all your warm-ups, you want to start with dynamic movements. So if you don't know what dynamic movements are, it's basically a movement. Dynamic just means to move. So we're going to start doing dynamic stretches and dynamic movements for warming up. You don't want to do static. Static means to hold it for a long time whenever you're doing a warm-up. So now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to bring our arm across, and we're going to pull it, and then we're going to relax it. And we're going to do this 5 times. Pull and relax. So we're going to full range of motion, and then we're relaxing. Full range of motion and relaxing. Full range of motion and relaxing. Now let's do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if I was to do this and hold it, this would become a static stretch because I'm holding it. So I want to get into full range of motion, hold it for a second or so, and then let it go. And that's going to be a dynamic stretch. All right, so you want to be doing dynamic stretches right now. All right, so now we're going to put our thumbs up. We're going to open our chest up by pulling our hands back, and we're going to bounce this 1, 2, 3, and hold. All right, now we're going to turn our palms up, our thumbs are back, and we're going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, and hold. All right, now we're going to raise one arm up, just like this. Try to touch in between your back. Try to touch your spine. Grab at the elbow and pull it back. So this should be stretching your triceps, muscles in the back of your arm here, and a little bit of your lats right down here. All right, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Swing it and bring it back. 1, 2, 3. Short little holds, all we need for right now. Now we're going to go big circles forward and big circles backwards. All right, we're going to hit the legs real quick. This class isn't going to be doing a lot of kicking. I know it's Taekwondo, but we're not going to do a lot of kicking for this class, so we're just going to hit these real quick. So standing, grab, bring it in, and now you can pull it 1, 2, 3, other side, 1, 2, 3. This should be stretching your quads right here. And the next one we're going to do is we're going to raise our toes up, straightening one leg, and we're going to bend the other leg as we lean forward. You should feel this on the back of your knee, a little bit in your calf, but mostly in your hamstrings on the back of your thigh. And kind of go a few in and out. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And have this little go into full range of motion and then come back. Get that stretch and come out. Get that stretch and come out. Now we're going to put our toes and our heel down, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. This should be stretching the inside. This is a socket stretch. 1, 2, 3. All right. Now let's just hop out a little bit. Move your legs. All right, so like I had mentioned earlier, this class is going to be focusing on punching and on blocking. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to cover our punches. So we're going to cover our traditional punches first. Your traditional punches are going to be used mostly in your forms. They're not going to be used a lot in actual fighting. They do have their purpose, and I will talk about that in a little bit, but you're probably not going to use them as much as the other punches I will show a little bit later. So the first thing I want to talk about, though, is going to be the striking surface. So whenever you're striking, you're going to be striking with these two knuckles right here. And now, when I do this, look at how my wrist is straight. Very common, I will see this, where there's this bend here. And these, I call these the knocking knuckles. If you go and knock on somebody's door, I know we just call people now, but if you were to knock on somebody's door, you would use these knuckles, not these. So make sure you're not punching with your knocking knuckles. These are your punching knuckles. So we want to use the big two. We don't want to hit with these ones, so I don't want my wrist like this, where this is straighter. I want it more aligned here. So these two bones are going to be in line with the forearm bones, all right? So that's what we want all of that in line as we're punching. The next thing I want to talk about for punching is you're going to have a twist. Think of like a drill. It's going to twist in at that last second, kind of digging into whatever you're making contact with. So I'm not just going to hit it like this, just a straight impact. I'm going to hit, and I have a little quarter turn, right upon contact. We want to have that twisting motion. So it takes a little bit of work to get that, but we're going to work on that as well. All right, so let's go over just our traditional punches. Traditional punches start hands on the belt, right? So in our fighting stance, or most of the punches we're going to do a little bit later, you're going to have your hands up, defending your face. These ones are going to come from the belt. Now let me talk real quick about one of the ways that I would actually apply a traditional punch over how I would normally punch. A traditional punch will probably happen in a more close range scenario. I'm close to them. I'm not moving in and out. Maybe they've grabbed me, or better yet, I've grabbed onto them, which will make more sense in just a second, and then I punch really hard as I'm pulling back. So I'm pulling them into me. Maybe I grab their head, maybe I grabbed their clothing, or whatever, and then I punch with a lot of power. Traditional punches typically are going to be more powerful than your fighting punches, but they're a lot, not slower, they're kind of slower because they have a longer distance to travel, but they're easier to see coming, all right? So just kind of keep that in mind. There are advantages and disadvantages. So we're going to start off just in a basic squared stance. So I'm not going to go into deep stance yet or anything like that. I'm going to start here. And now when we do traditional punches, I'm going to start with one arm extended out. The middle range, so we have low, middle, and high traditional punches. The middle range is going to be aiming right here where this black square is on my uniform. If you're wearing your dobok, the Taekwondo uniform, it's going to be where that patch is right there. That's going to be right over your heart, where you can feel your solar plexus is there, which is protecting your heart. We're going to punch basically to the heart is the goal of this. So we're going to start off with one hand here, and we're going to push the other one forward as this one comes back. Now notice how this hand, the one that's punching, is still palm up, palm up, palm up, palm up, palm up, all the way over. And then I'm going to punch again, and I'm palm up. I start a little bit of a twist, and then I have that quarter twist at the last second. So I want you to really work on that quarter twist. Now, I want you to stay as relaxed as possible with your arms. The only time we're going to add tension is whenever we're doing that quarter twist at the end. And that's going to help you identify when you should do that. So we're staying relaxed, 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 tension. Relax, 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 tension. Right now, I'm only isolating the upper body, and I want you to do this along with me. We're only isolating the upper body. We're not using our lower body in our punches yet. We will get to that, and it is very important to use your lower body. That's where most of your power is going to be generated. But for right now, let's just get the mechanics for the upper body. So again, I'm going slow, and then at that last second, I twist. From the side, I want you to be able to see that I'm going to almost extend out fully, and then I twist. And that's when the tension comes in. And then I twist. And then I twist. So do these along with me. Again, staying nice and relaxed. And what I do usually whenever I'm doing this is I have a little bit of a hole in my hand, right? Whenever I'm doing it, so you can see through the hole, right? Keep that in mind. I want you to keep that little hole in your hand, and then at that last second, I want you to close that hole. And that'll help you with that tension. If you notice, hey, there's no hole in the hand, well, I'm probably too tight already. And tension makes you slow. So we want to be fast, and we only put the tension in on contact. Here, and punch. Here, and punch. So let's do some more. And now you can speed this up. Work on that tension. Work on getting it tight at the very last second. And that twist is also at the very last second. Now I'm going to go ahead and point this out again. Remember, the punch for the middle section is going towards the patch, which means my shoulder is higher than my fist. So if you were to look at me from the side, when I do these punches, my shoulder or my arm has this slant downwards. If it is straight, then that is not going to be a middle section traditional punch. Keep that in mind. A few more. All right, so you're doing that along with me, and you hopefully have the concept of staying loose and then tight and that twist at the last second. Now, I'm going to talk about another concept, and we're going to try to work it, but this is a much more difficult and more advanced concept. I know this is a very beginner class, but I want you to be aware of this concept, start to kind of work on it, but don't worry about it if you just can't get it today. It's not a big deal for right now. If you were a black belt, it is a huge deal. For a white belt, it is not. So keep it in mind. I want you to have exposure to it and practice it as you can. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop our hip as we're punching. So you can see this motion. I'm going to do that with my hips as I'm setting up for the punch. So I want you to watch the next few punches, and I want you to watch what my belt does. So just the movement. So that motion right there is what I'm going to be trying to do. I'm going to throw my belt. I'm doing this. So I'm pulling one side back as I push the other one, but then I'm also returning it back. So I'm popping it, and I relax to let it come back to the center. Now, when you're doing this, have a little bit of a bend in your knees. Trying this with a straight legs, not going to work out as well. I want you to work with this. You can even do this, if you know the horse stance, you can go down into your horse stance. And you can do the same thing from the horse stance, all right? If you want to just stand in a regular squared stance with your knees slightly bent, that's fine as well. So work on getting that hip. Now I'm going to stay nice and relaxed with just a little bit of tension right at the last second. Make sure that you're exhaling on every one. If you were in a dojo, I would have you yell. But you're probably at home, and somebody might even be asleep, so you're not trying to wake them up, so you don't have to yell, but exhale. If not, you're going to be breathing really hard. You can notice I'm going to start breathing hard because I'm trying to talk while demonstrating all of this, which is going to get me more exhausted than if I was breathing properly while doing this. All right, again, I want you to have exposure to that concept. If you don't get it right now, that is fine. Don't worry about it too much. Just try to practice it a little bit. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do this exact same thing, but we're going to aim towards the head. So we were aiming towards the black square. Now we're going to aim towards the nose. All right, so as I punch, I'm going to mark my target. That means my hand's out here. That could be simulating that I'm grabbing the head and pulling it in, whatever it is. But I have that hand marking, so it's right at my nose level. And then I'm going to punch. Again, staying nice and relaxed. If you want to try to add that hip pop in right now, you can. If not, that's fine. You don't have to. Now, every time my hand returns back to the belt, it's going to be palm up, and I'm touching my hip bone through my belt. So I'm not going to be up here. I'm not going to be down here. I feel where my belt is, and I feel my hip bone through my belt. One of the common mistakes that I'll see people make is they'll put this hand here, where, as you can see from the side, my wrist is in front of my belly. I don't want my hand in front of that. I want it on my sideline. So if there's this line here, it should be completely behind that. And give me 20 punches on your own count. Go. Did you go fast like me? Keep on. Finish them up, finish them up. Once you're done, take a deep breath in. And exhale out. Breathe in. And exhale out. In. And out. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a block. So we're going to do what's called a low block. So this is what a low block looks like. You can also later on add hips. The idea of a low block is it's going to be blocking a kick, a roundhouse kick, typically, that's going in a slight upwards direction towards the center section or your ribs. I'm trying to block with my ulna. The ulna is the outer forearm bone. All right, so now let's go into the setup for this. Every traditional technique has a setup and an ending position. For the punches, the setup is here, and the ending position is here. For a block, specifically for the low block, the setup is here, the ending position is here. So now let's talk about the setup. The hand that's on top, palm, should be towards your face. Do not put your palm downwards. So I'm having the open hand just so you can see, but I'm going to have a closed hand when I'm doing this. But I don't want the palm turned downwards, because if I do it with the palm turns downwards and I go out, notice how I did not have a rotation. Remember how I was talking about the rotation for the punches? Well, all of your blocks are also going to have a rotation. All of your hand techniques will have a rotation at the end of the technique. That's just something that I want you to kind of get an idea of now. So as we're starting here, palm starts towards the face. Other arm is slightly out here, and we're going to go down, down. Notice my palm is still in that same angle, and now when it gets to about in front of my belt, that's when I'm going to stop with the relaxation, start with the tension, and finish it. So I'm here. And you can see when the tension comes in. Now, the ending position here, as you can see here, I'm going to pull my toe block in so you can see a little better, but you should be able to see this gap here, right? You should not be able to see an opening. So this is an opening, right? If a kick was to come in here, it could hit. I have the gap closed, so it's just a circle right here. There's a hole, though. There's not an opening to the hole. That's going to be wrong. Now, whenever I'm doing this, that means my elbow has to be bent. I don't want to have a straight elbow when I'm doing this, because what might happen is they might kick a roundhouse kick, and as I block, my arm continues going. They kick my elbow stops, and now I have a fully hyperextend arm and possible broken elbow. Not fun. Don't do it. So you want to have a bend in your elbow at all times. It does not ever fully lock out. Your palm should be facing in towards you. Your ulna, the outside forearm bone, is what you're going to be blocking with. All right, so let's set up and block. Set up and block. Set up, palm towards the face and block. Set up, palm towards the face and block. Now let's go ahead and put the other hand on top. Set up, palm towards the face, block. Palm towards the face, block. Set up, block. Set up, block. Check yourself. Do you have a bend in your elbow? Is your hand in front of your hip bone? So this is my left hand. It's in front of my left side hip. It's not past it. It's not in front of my belt or the knot in my belt. It's in front of my left side hip. Are you there? Is your other hand at your belt? Not here. Not here. Here. All right. Now we're going to block one side, and we're going to raise up the other arm and block the other side. Block one, other arm, two. One, two. So now we're just alternating the arms that we're blocking with while doing this. All right, so now I'm going to talk about that hip concept again that I had talked about for the punches. We can use that, and we should be using that for our blocks as well. Again, you don't have to have this down right now, but I want you to see it. So for this, I'm going to turn the knot in my belt, which means my hips turn. I'm going to turn it about 45 degrees offset as I set up, and then I'm going to come back. Set up, come back. Now when I do this, I raise my heel up, and then I set it back down. Up and back. So this one is going to be significantly easier to get, though, than for the punches. Again, staying nice and relaxed and rotating at the end with that twist. And I have that sudden stop. Try not to do anything like that where you have that extra movement. Sudden stop. Palm starts towards the face, palm ends facing down. Towards the face, face down. All right, let's take a deep breath in and out. All right, so that was our low block. We're going to switch it back to our punches. But first, I want to cover the fighting stance. So the fighting stance it's what it sounds like. It's a fighting stance. All right, so with the fighting stance, what we're going to do is we're going to have our hands up close to our face. They're probably going to be around your cheekbone is where the top of your knuckles are. If you're in a more of a defensive mode, you can raise your hands up even higher. Now, when you're doing this, I want you to bring your elbows in, and I want you to relax your elbows on your chest. So one of the mistakes I see people make is they hold their hands out like this with their elbows far away from their body. Their deltoids, the shoulder muscles, are going to be tired when they're sparring or fighting, and their hands are going to do this, and then their hands are going to do this, and then they're going to be down here. So let's start with them nice, relaxed. We're bringing them in, and they're in front of us, and they're just kind of hanging out here. And it's easy to hang them out here. You don't have to use your shoulder muscles because they're just sitting on your chest. And that puts your hands typically right around where they should be for this. Now your stance is not going to be long, and then make sure your heels, so you see this tape that's on the ground, make sure your heels are not on that line. So if I have a line, they should not be on that line. My belt should be facing completely forward if I'm wearing it. It's not 45, it's not 90 degrees. My toes, my front toes are facing completely forward. My back toes might be slightly, maybe 30 degrees offline, but they're not going to be completely forward, but they're not going to be 90 degrees either. And then I don't want my feet too far apart. If I do this, I can't turn my hip properly. I'm not going to have a strong punch. So I want to have my feet closer. This should be kind of a natural feeling stance here. If you feel elongated with your stance, bring them in. Bring them in. Get them underneath you. They should be easy for you to kind of step around and walk. This should be a really kind of natural stance. It might feel a little weird with the upper body, but the lower body should be mostly natural. Again, if you're looking at me straight on, you can tell my feet are not in a straight line. I see this is the most common mistake is people will do this with their fighting stance where their heels are in a straight line like that. Don't do that. Here. All right, so we're going to go over our jab. Same concepts as our punches before. We have the twist at the very last second. We're hitting with those two knuckles. We're going to align our wrist both this way and this side so that those knuckles are going to be aligned. All right, so we're here. Now when we're doing this, we're going to pop our hip out as we push forward, and now we're going to raise our heel of our front foot. Typically will be your left foot. We're going to raise our heel of it just a little bit to help reach, and I want to push my hip bone. If I'm punching this direction, I want to push my hip bone so it's towards the front. That's going to allow my shoulder to turn, so as I drop my arm, you can see my shoulders pointed towards the front too, and that gives me maximum reach. So I'm getting twisting power here. I'm pressing off of this front leg, hitting, and then I'm bringing it right back. Again, that twist is at the last second. And now one of the most common things that people do on these types of punch is they'll come here, they'll raise their elbow up, and then they hammer fist. So you see that motion? That's a hammer fist. A jab or a cross are both going to go in this complete straight line, which means I start extending, my elbows pointed down, 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 and then my elbow goes to the side. At the very last second, that's when my elbow is now pointed towards the side. I don't raise my elbow up and then come out. That is a hammer fist. They look the same at the end, but they are not the same, and there's a huge difference upon impact, so keep that in mind. So we're here, hands are up. We're going to turn our hip, point our shoulder, extend out, and bring it right back. Extend out and back. Extend out and back. Notice I'm going into slight crouched stance. My knees are bent. That's going to allow me to push off the ground. That's where the power is coming from. I'm pushing off the ground. I'm not just using my chest and my tricep for this is what's called a snap jab. And you can do these, and that's fine. They have their purpose, but it's not what we're doing right now. We're doing more of a powerful jab. So you're going to go here. That hip turns. The heel raises up slightly. The hand moves in a straight line. That shoulder points towards the front, and then try to keep your shoulder elevated a little bit at the end to protect your jaw. Give me a few more. All right, just for time's sakes, we're just going to do one side, but you should be practicing both sides. Chances are you're really going to be fighting mostly on one side, but you're probably not going to be fighting a whole lot, so it's good to practice both sides just for coordination purposes. There's no reason to practice only one side because in the fight, I'm only going to use one side. I hear that all the time. Man, how many times are you going to get in a fight? I haven't gotten in a fight since high school. Like, I don't plan on getting in a fight, so I'm going to practice both sides. And if I need to, well, I can use both sides in a fight if I need to. All right, so just my little spiel on that. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cover our high block. We'll get to the cross next. So our high block looks like this. Actually, I'm not sure how high up you can see, so I'm going to drop down a little bit. And this is what a high block looks like. All right, so how does a high block start off? High block starts off with one arm up. Sometimes it can be over. This is fine, but it's just kind of up here like this. This other arm is going to go across the belly, not starting here, across the belly. My palm is starting facing up with this one. Now, the hand that's blocking is going to go on the outside, so I'm not going to go this way where it's on the inside. Hand that's blocking, the lower arm, is going to go on the outside of this arm. Raising up. Notice my palm stays towards me, and then when it's about at my head height, that's when I'm going to extend out for that. So here, last second. Relax, 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 last second. And I do a little bit of a push out as well. So it's not just going to be this straight up motion like this. It's going to be up, out, whenever you're doing your high blocks. Here. All right, starting position. Do it along with me. Palm facing up. This palm facing inwards. Comes up as this one goes down. And then we're right around the head height. Pop it. Set up. All right, so now let's look at the ending position. My ulna is pointed up and out. So this one right here, the outside forearm bone, pointed up and out. I'm not pointing it just out, which would be this, where my palm is facing straight down and my back of my hand is pointed up. I don't want that. I want it slightly angled, so it's up and out. 45 degrees up is the direction my ulna should be facing. You should not see the top of my head. Hey, you can see the top of my head. Yeah, you shouldn't see that. You should see my head, and I should be looking underneath this. And I'm going out. Also, don't have your palm all the way out or up, where you're blocking with the inside muscles here. You don't want to do that. You want to block with that bone, not the muscle. Always block with bones. All right, so this is going to be your ending position here. Now we're going to put the other hand from the belt across, drop this down, and up and out. Up and out. Arm goes across, this one starts to drop down, up and out. Up and out. Arm across, up and out. And now you should be exhaling on these as well. If you're really adding that tension in there like you should be, and you're doing strong, powerful blocks, you can get tired from these. So that, make sure you're breathing out. Don't hold your breath. If you hold your breath, your blood pressure could spike up and you can pass out. You're probably not going to pass out from holding your breath on blocks, but let's be safer. Always exhale anytime you're going to exert energy. It's a safety thing, and it's going to stop you from getting so tired. All right, stop. Stop in the high block. Check your position. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention is this hand, the blocking hand, should be over here, not here, not here. So as you're looking directly at me, this wrist should be about in line with the opposite ear. So if I'm raising my left hand, which I am, my left wrist should be in line with my right ear, or pretty close to it. But I don't want this hand directly in line with your face. It should be slightly past. Other hand goes across, block, 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 add that tension. And now you can also add power into blocks or add hips into blocks. When you do this, the hand that's reaching across your body, you're going to turn your hips that direction, drop down slightly, and come back. All right, let's take a deep breath in. All right, that was our high block. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to cover our cross. So our jab was from our fighting stance, a lead hand punch. Our cross, from our fighting stance, is a rear hand punch. Now, it doesn't matter if your left hand's in front or your right hand's in front. It does not. It matters which hand is in the back punching makes it a cross. So I was to put my right foot in front, now my left hand would make my cross hand, my right hand would be my jab hand. If I switch, my left foot's in front, now my right is my cross hand, and my left is my jab hand. So keep that in mind. It's not based off left or right, it's based off of front or back. Now when you're doing a cross, again, make sure you're in a good fighting stance. This is where this is important not to do. I see this all the time. Or heels in a straight line or elongated stance. Whenever you're doing this, that prevents my hip from going forward. So I'm going to show this. This is how I do not want you to do it. I'm punching and I'm trying to turn my hip, but because my foot's so far back, the knot in my belt is only able to face forward. Now when I bring my foot in and I punch, now the knot in my belt is able to face 45 degrees past my target. My shoulder is able to point forward, all right? My hip is able to point forward. Those are key concepts when you're doing this. Now the next thing is I want you to press off of your back leg and I want you to raise your back heel up. Now, I see a mistake that a lot of people make when they're raising that back heel up, and this is what they're doing. Does that look right? It might kind of look right. So the difference is I want you to press off of your back leg. So I can stand here and I can twist my hip and I can raise my back heel up, all right? But that's not generating any power at all. But what does generate power is when I have this bend in my knees and I triple extension. So triple extension is extending at the hip or using the glute muscles, extending at the knee using the quad muscles, and extending at the ankle using your calf muscles. So we want that triple extension so we can press off of the ground as we throw that cross, and that's where the power comes from. The power comes from the leg pressing off the ground. It does not come from just a twist and then using your chest and your tricep. Don't do that, all right? So keep in mind, we are pressing off of the ground when you do this. Now, you don't have to put a lot of power in, especially if you're not actually hitting something, but I want you to know the concepts. They're very important. I'm very conceptual. I want you to know how things work, not just, I told you to do it, so you're going to do it this way. I will say that for a few things, but that's mostly the traditional stuff. But everything else, I'm going to try to give you the reason why it works. And when you understand how it works, you understand what makes other things work. And that's the whole idea. I want you to learn how it all works, not how to do it. There's a difference between how to do something and how it works and being able to do it. So keep that in mind as well. So we're starting here. We're going to turn our hip, pressing off the ground, triple extension, and throw that cross out. Now my other hand protects my face. I will sometimes even reach up and grab my own head. When I do this, it's going to stay up here because when you're punching at somebody, they're probably punching back at you. So let's accidentally block their punch while we hit them in the face. All right, so hands stay up. This is not what I want. I don't want this. Here, here. So go ahead, do this along with me. I'm getting a slight crouch stance. My knees are bending. Punch out, punch out, punch out. Cross, cross. Pressing off of that back leg to turn that hip. Notice how my belt is swinging side to side. If your belt is not swinging, well, you're probably not wearing it, but it should be swinging from side to side. When you do wear it, every time you do a punch, it should swing. Doesn't matter what punch you're doing, you should swing your belt, right? Power comes from the hips. Every martial art you're ever going to do, power is going to come from the hips. Every martial art I've ever done, the power comes from the hips. So keep that in mind, all right? So practice a few more. Turning it by pressing. Make sure that back heel raises up. Make sure your stance is not elongated. Try to point your shoulder all the way forward and then retract it back. Same thing as before. We don't raise up the elbow and then hammer fist out. I don't want that. You can use that for other things when you purposely do it, not on accident though. Press forward, elbows pointed down, and at the last second, the elbow twists and raise up at that full extension and that twisting motion. Also, relax, holes in your hands, right? And tighten up at that last second, and then release it. That release usually will bring your arm back in. After you punch and you release everything, your arm naturally just kind of falls back in there, into place. You can do a little bit of a pull back though, to help it get back a little bit faster. All right, so that was our cross. So that's all of the techniques that I'm going to cover today. I know I did a lot of talking. I like to really explain some of these things so that you really understand it. So now we're gonna move on to the next portion, which is gonna be our conditioning. So the conditioning today is gonna be from a fighting stance. And I'm gonna do it from this angle. All right, here. I'm gonna go jab, hip turn, cross, hip turn. Now when I turn to that hip, I raised that heel. That forced my knee, this knee, my back knee, to face towards my other leg. From this position, I want you to drop down. Now, depending on what surface you're using, if you have mats like I have, you can kind of drop down a little bit faster. If you don't control it, don't hit your knee on like tile or wood, it hurts, don't do that. But we're gonna go here with that cross, we're gonna drop down, we're gonna come up, twist for the jab, twist for the cross, drop down, come up, 1, 2, down, come up, 1, 2. All right, so we're gonna do 3 sets of 15. We're gonna do this on both sides. So I know we didn't practice the other side, this is gonna feel a little funny, that's fine, just work with me. All right, we're here. Ready? Begin. 1, jab, cross, drop down. I haven't covered counting in Korean, so I'm just going to count in English for right now. 2, jab, cross, drop down. 3, jab, cross, drop down. 4, jab, cross, down. 5, jab, cross, down. 6, jab, cross, down. 7, make sure you're breathing. 8, keep going. 9, punch, bring the hand in as you drop. 10, 11, turn those hips. 12, 13, 14, every time the hips turn, 15. All right, now we're gonna just go ahead and switch stances real quick. We're gonna do the same thing. So now I have my right foot in front, my right hand is my jab hand. I'm gonna follow up with that cross. Ready? 1, jab, cross, down. 2, jab, cross, down. 3, jab, cross, down. Notice how, because I turned after that, my knee is close to my foot. 4, jab, cross, down. Hands are up around your face. 5, jab, cross, down. Hands are still up. 6, jab, cross, nice and relaxed. 7, jab, cross. 8, jab, cross. I'm not putting power right now, but I am getting the mechanics down. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, grab, pull in, 1, 2, 3. Grab, pull in, 1, 2, 3. And left foot back in the front. Same thing, we've got 2 more sets, and begin. 1, 2, down. 1, 2, down, that's 2. 3, 4, turn those hips. 5, hands back to your face. 6, elbows down. 7, turn your hips more. 8, 9, when you go down, keep your upper body upright. Don't lean forward. 10, 11, 12, don't bang your knee on the ground. 13, 14, 15. And switch sides, same thing. Jab, cross, 1, 2, down, 3, down. Check your stance. Looks good. 4, down, 5, down, 6, down, 7, down, 8, down, 9, down, 10, down, 11, turn those hips, down, 12, down, hands up, 13, down, right around your face, 14, down, breathe, 15. Take a deep breath in and out. Grab, pull it in, grab, pull it in. Your quads might be burning a little bit. Maybe you don't feel them at all. Hopefully you feel a little bit. All right, we got another set. Ready? We're taking too much time in between this one. And go. 1, 2, down. 1, 2, down. That's 2, 3. Turn your hips. 4, 5. Make sure your heels are not in a straight line. 6, 7. Nice and relaxed the whole time. 8. I'm not putting any tension right now. 9. Breathe. 10. 11. 12. Hands back to your face. 13. Turn your hips. 14. 15. 15. Other side. Ready? Oh, this is the last one. Cool. And go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, take a breath in and out. Breathe in and out. All right, so now we're going to start cooling down. At this point, if you have any questions, go ahead and type your questions in the comments. I will read them all as soon as I end the class, and I will start to answer them before I log off. So you can type them now. We're going to do a quick cool down. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to lay down, slightly lay down. We're going to grab one, and now I want you to not keep your knees in a line like this. I want you to pull it back as much as you can. Get your heel close to your glutes and pull your knee back. See how my knees are apart? They're not one right over the other. Take a few deep breaths. And now I want you to hold this stretch. Now this is what's called a static stretch. I'm holding it. So static stretches are always good for the end of class when your body is really warmed up. Static stretches elongate the muscle. They pull the pieces of the muscle, the myosin and the actin apart, making it longer. It causes little tears though. You don't want to do this at the beginning of class. You're going to be more likely to hurt yourself, and you're also not going to have peak performance because, like I said, they're going to pull the pieces of the muscle apart a little bit, so you're not going to have as much overlap in them, and they don't have as much strength. So you never want to do this before actual competition, especially. All right, we're going to go ahead and switch sides. But for the purposes of flexibility, static stretches are superior. They're the best. They're one of the best, right? There's PNF, and that's really good too. But static stretches are great for flexibility whenever you're working on that specifically, which if you're trying to get high kicks, you're going to have to do static stretching. I recommend it always at the end of class. All right. Now we're going to come up. We're going to point one leg, toes that way. Now make sure your heel is still on the ground and the back leg. You should be feeling the stretch on the inside of your thigh. So this is going to be stretching your hip adductor muscles. This helps for higher kicks. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to rotate that back heel just like that. And then you can put this hand down if you want, or you can lean back. Either way. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to the other side. Now ideally, static stretches are done for around 30 seconds each, but because I'm not trying to take a long time for stretching right now, I'm shortening them. But keep that in mind. Whenever you are actually working on flexibility, you don't want to hold it for just 10 seconds. You want to try to get at least 30 seconds to help really elongate that muscle. You're going to feel tension, and as you go to that point where it starts to stretch, you're going to have it so that it kind of pulls in and just tell it to relax. What I do is I usually touch where the tension's at, bring my mind to it, and then just tell it to relax, and you'll feel it start to elongate again. So that's going to happen. It's pretty natural. Rotate your back heel. Now this is working on the flexibility of your hip flexors, what brings your leg straight up. So work on that. Hold that for a few seconds. All right, the next one we're going to do, we're going to go ahead. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can practice it sitting your entire foot on the ground. I typically like this one. You can raise up the heel. You can drop down the knee and set on it. You can bring the foot in towards the knee and reach for it. Any of those are fine. They're all going to be doing the same thing, slight variations though, and we're stretching the hamstrings now. So I like this one because I feel like I get more stretch when I do this one. Now when you're reaching for your leg and your toes, try not to arch your back too much like this when I'm doing it. Try to keep your upper back as straight as possible. So we want to bend at the hip, not at our back. Some people can touch their toes, but they still have really tight hamstrings because they're just flexible in their back and not actually in their hamstrings. All right, now we're going to switch. Same thing. Try to keep your back relatively straight whenever you're doing this. You can even think about pinching your shoulder blades together, and that usually will help you keep your back straight. And then lean forward at the hip, stretching the hamstring muscles, which are the muscles on the back side of your thigh. All right, now we're going to go into my favorite stretch. That's not actually my favorite, but I like doing it. So we're going to go into the splits. Try to point your toes up at this point. Now, I don't expect you to be able to go down as far as I can. If you can, awesome, but you're the anomaly. Most people can't. So don't worry about it if you can't. You don't even have to be able to do the splits to get a black belt in Taekwondo. Some people just never are able to do the splits. Some people have bone structure that does not allow them to do the splits, so it's not even their fault. They can't do it. So keep that in mind. It's not a requirement, but it's very, very helpful if you can do the splits. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to stand up, and now we're going to just shake it out a little bit. All right, arm across. 1, 2, 3. Bring it back, other side. 1, 2, 3. Bring it up. 1, 2, 3. Other one. 1, 2, 3. Thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Thumbs back. 1, 2, 3. And fix my uniform. All right, chariot. Chariot means attention stance, hands and feet together. And kunya. Kunya means to bow. All right, so that's how we end the class. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you next time. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scroll through the comments real fast. There doesn't look like there's too many people still here, but I'm going to answer any questions that might have popped up. Ian asks if elbow strikes are allowed in sparring. In Taekwondo sparring, no, they are not allowed. You can in just, if you do like Muay Thai sparring, you can do it. If you go into MMA, you can do elbow strikes, but they're not allowed in Taekwondo sparring. They're dangerous. You're actually not allowed to punch in the face in Taekwondo, so keep that in mind as well. No strikes to the face. Elbow strikes, great strikes for fighting, not allowed in Taekwondo sparring, but if you agree to it and you have elbow pads, you can do it in free sparring. Was that any other questions? All right, yep, that was all of the questions. All right, so hope to see you guys next time. The next class for the challenge is going to be, on the 19th. It's going to be on Tuesday the 19th, same time, 7 p.m. All right, hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.